Think the 80s was just Aliens and Blade Runner? Think again. Hidden behind the blockbusters were mind-bending gems about body horror night, alien jazz musicians, and government experiments gone wrong. These forgotten sci-fi masterpieces predicted our present, shocked audiences, and influenced everything you're watching today. Let's dive in. 1. The Philadelphia Experiment, 1984. In 1943, the U.S. Navy tried to make a destroyer invisible to radar. In 1984, director Stuart D.A.R.Y.L turned that conspiracy theory into one of the most mind-bending time travel films ever made. Two W-2 sailors get zapped into 1984 when a military experiment goes haywire, landing them in a future they never imagined while their bodies deteriorate at the molecular level. Michael Pare and Nancy Allen deliver surprisingly emotional performances in what could have been just another B-movie. The film's charm lies in its perfect balance of fish-out-of-water comedy and existential horror. 1 minute you're laughing as sailors discover MTV. The next, you're watching them phase in and out of reality like glitchy VHS tapes. The production was famously chaotic. John Carpenter was originally attached to direct, but bailed after creative differences, and the entire third act was rewritten during filming. Despite the behind-the-scenes drama, the special effects still impress today, especially the nightmarish, human-fused with ship deck sequence that haunted an entire generation of late-night TV viewers. Critics dismissed it as a Twilight Zone episode stretched too thin, but its cult following has only grown stronger. The film tackles themes of temporal displacement and government conspiracy with surprising nuance, beating Christopher Nolan to the punch by decades. Its influence stretches from Stranger Things to Dark, proving sometimes the most overlooked films cast the longest shadows. 2. D.A.R.Y.L, 1985. Before AI kids were Hollywood's obsession, there was D.A.R.Y.L, a government-built robot boy with a supercomputer brain who just wants to play baseball. This underappreciated gem takes the E.T. formula and gives it a tech twist that feels eerily prophetic of today's AI ethics debates. Barrett Oliver stars as the data-analyzing robot youth Lifeforce, who escapes his military creators, gets adopted by a suburban family, and proceeds to absolutely dominate Little League while learning what it means to be human. The film walks a fascinating line between heartwarming family drama and disturbing science fiction. 1 minute D.A.R.Y.L's hitting home runs. The next, he's hacking bank accounts and outmaneuvering military jets. Director Simon Windsor crafted something special here, a film that respects kids' intelligence while asking serious questions about consciousness and humanity. The scene where D.A.R.Y.L realizes he's not human delivers an emotional gut punch that rivals anything in more celebrated AI films. The movie bombed hard at the box office, earning just $7.8 million against its $12 million budget. Paramount buried it with minimal marketing, releasing it between Cocoon and Back to the Future, where it was promptly forgotten. Critics called it E.T. without the magic, completely missing that its mechanical heart was its strength. D.A.R.Y.L predicted our modern concerns about artificial intelligence with remarkable accuracy. Its exploration of whether a synthetic being can develop genuine emotions feels more relevant in 2025 than it did 40 years ago. This is sci-fi that got sharper, not duller, with age. 3. Runaway, 1984. Tom Selleck fighting killer spider robots while sporting the most magnificent mustache in sci-fi history? Runaway is Michael Crichton's forgotten tech nightmare that predicted our smart device anxiety decades before Alexa started listening to your conversations. Plays Sergeant Jack Ramsey, a cop specializing in malfunctioning domestic robots in a near future where automated helpers have become household staples. When these robots start murdering their owners, Ramsey uncovers a plot by a tech terrorist, Gene Simmons of KISS, absolutely chewing the scenery, involving guided microchips and heat-seeking bullets. The film's vision of everyday robotics is startlingly accurate. From robot vacuum cleaners to automated farm equipment and security drones, Crichton nailed our tech-dependent future. The action sequences are genuinely tense, particularly a showdown in a construction site where spider robots pursue Selleck through half-built floors with relentless mechanical precision. Critics savaged it, with Roger Ebert calling it a silly mess of a movie. Audiences largely ignored it, and it barely recouped its $8 million budget. But what looked like cheap sci-fi in 1984 plays like unnerving prophecy today. Those spider drones? Got them now. Smart home devices going rogue? Common fear. Runaway understood that the scariest future wasn't alien invasion. It was our own technology turning against us. Crichton directed only 5 films, and this remains his most underrated. In an age where we voluntarily put surveillance devices in our homes, Runaway's technological paranoia hits differently now than it did in the Reagan era. 4. The Brother from Another Planet, 1984. A mute, 3-toed alien crash lands in Harlem, pursued by alien bounty hunters who look like men in black. Only independent filmmaker John Sayles could turn this bizarre premise into a poignant masterpiece about race, immigration, and belonging in Reagan's America. Joe Morton delivers a tour-de-force silent performance as the brother, an escaped slave from another world who finds sanctuary in a black neighborhood while evading white alien hunters. What makes this film extraordinary is how it uses sci-fi to examine American racial dynamics from an outsider's perspective. The brother's inability to speak forces him to observe, giving viewers an alien's eye view of our own social divides. Sayles shot the film, guerrilla style, on a shoestring $350,000 budget in just 28 days. The lack of fancy special effects works to its advantage, keeping the focus on character and social commentary. The brother's only power, his ability to fix broken machines with a touch, becomes a beautiful metaphor for seeing potential where others see only damage. Critics praised the film's originality and Morton's performance, but mainstream audiences missed it entirely. It grossed less than $1 million, but developed a dedicated cult following among sci-fi fans looking for something beyond laser battles and space marines. The Brother from Another Planet represents sci-fi at its most humanistic and thoughtful. Its insights on racial inequality, police authority, and immigration remain razor-sharp today, perhaps even more relevant than in 1984. As Sayles himself noted, sometimes you need an alien perspective to see what's right in front of you. 5. Videodrome, 1983. Long Live the New Flesh. David Cronenberg's hallucinatory body horror masterpiece about television that literally gets under your skin still feels dangerously ahead of its time. James Woods plays Max Wren, a sleazy cable TV programmer who discovers Videodrome, a mysterious broadcast featuring extreme violence that triggers grotesque physical transformations in its viewers. What makes Videodrome so remarkable is how it anticipated our toxic relationship with media decades before social media warped our collective psyche. The film's vision of entertainment and reality merging into a nightmarish hallucination feels like prophecy in an era of deepfakes, filter bubbles, and virtual reality. The practical effects by Rick Baker still disturb 40 years later. The infamous scene where Woods develops a vaginal video slot in his stomach caused several walkouts during early screenings. Debbie Harry of Blondie delivers a hypnotic performance as a sadomasochistic psychiatrist drawn to Videodrome's sinister signal. Universal Studios had no idea how to market this mindbender, releasing it with the bizarre tagline, "First it controls your mind, then it destroys your body." It grossed only $2.1 million against its $6 million budget and was dismissed by many critics as disgusting body horror. Pauline Kael famously called it a Faustian fable for the video age. Yet Videodrome's influence is everywhere in modern sci-fi and horror. Without it, we wouldn't have The Matrix, Existence, or Black Mirror. Cronenberg's vision of media as a viral infection consuming humanity has only grown more prescient as screens dominate our lives. When Woods whispers, "Death to Videodrome, long live the new flesh," he could be talking about our own transformation into digital beings. 6. The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. Across the Eighth Dimension, 1984. How do you describe a film where a neurosurgeon rockstar physicist drives a jet car through a mountain to battle aliens from the eighth dimension? Buckaroo Banzai is the glorious sci-fi madness that taught Hollywood you can't manufacture cult classics. They happen when filmmakers swing for the fences without explaining every detail. Peter Weller is perfectly deadpan as Buckaroo, leading his banned Chakra science team strike force, the Hong Kong Cavaliers, against interdimensional aliens led by John Lithgow in one of cinema's most gloriously unhinged performances. The film throws viewers into its bizarre world without explanation. Aliens disguised as humans, watermelons used in physics experiments, and Jeff Goldblum in cowboy gear are all presented as perfectly normal. Director W.D. Richter created a universe so dense with unexplained references that fans spent decades piecing together the mythology. The film famously ends with a sequel promise, Buckaroo Banzai Against the World Crime League, that never materialized despite passionate fan campaigns. 20th Century Fox had no clue how to market this beautiful oddity, burying it with minimal promotion. It earned a dismal $6.2 million against its $12 million budget. Critics were divided, with some calling it incoherent, while others praised its fearless originality. Over time, filmmakers like Wes Anderson and Kevin Smith have acknowledged its influence on their work. What makes Buckaroo Banzai timeless is its refusal to underestimate the audience. In an era when blockbusters spoon-feed every plot point, its gleeful weirdness and narrative density feel revolutionary. The film's catchphrase, "No matter where you go, there you are," has entered the cultural lexicon, proving sometimes the strangest science fiction leaves the deepest mark. 7. Trancers, 1984. Before Terminator became a franchise behemoth, there was Trancers, the scrappy punk rock time travel thriller that gave us a hard-boiled detective from the future hunting down zombie-like killers in 1980s Los Angeles. Shot for roughly the cost of James Cameron's catering budget, this B-movie gem delivers more entertainment per dollar than most modern sci-fi blockbusters. Tim Thomerson stars as Jack Death, a 23rd century cop who pursues Whistler, a psychic criminal who turns people into mindless trancers with just a glance. Using experimental technology, Death's consciousness travels back to 1985, inhabiting his ancestor's body. The catch? If his ancestor dies, so does he. A young Helen Hunt co-stars in one of her earliest roles as a punk rock record store clerk drawn into the temporal manhunt. Director Charles Band shot the film guerrilla style across Los Angeles with minimal permits, giving it an authentic, gritty feel that bigger budget productions couldn't match. The ingenious time freeze device that slows time for 10 seconds creates some of the most memorable action sequences in low-budget sci-fi history. Critics largely ignored it, but Trancers found its audience on VHS, spawning 5 sequels and developing a dedicated cult following. What makes it special isn't just its clever premise, but its noir sensibilities. Thomerson plays Death like Humphrey Bogart with a ray gun, delivering hard-boiled one-liners with perfect timing. The film's legacy lives on and works like Looper and Blade Runner 2049, which echo its themes of identity and temporal displacement. For a film made on pocket change, Trancers punches far above its weight class, proving sometimes the most influential sci-fi comes from the margins, not the mainstream. 8. Innerspace, 1987. What if Fantastic Voyage was hijacked by a manic comedy director? Joe Dante's Innerspace takes the microscopic adventure concept and injects it with adrenaline, slapstick, and genuine heart. Dennis Quaid plays a washed-up pilot miniaturized and accidentally injected into the body of hypochondriac store clerk Martin Short, creating one of the most unlikely buddy comedies in sci-fi history. The film's genius lies in its perfect fusion of cutting-edge special effects and screwball comedy. Industrial Light and Magic won an Oscar for the groundbreaking miniature body sequences that still impress today. But it's the chemistry between Quaid, communicating from inside Short's body, and Short's increasingly frantic reactions that elevate it beyond mere spectacle. Production was notoriously difficult, with Dante fighting Warner Brothers over the film's tone. The studio wanted a straight action film, Dante insisted on leaning into comedy. The compromise resulted in something unique, a sci-fi film that delivers both genuine thrills and belly laughs, often in the same scene. Critics praised its inventiveness, but audiences didn't show up in droves. Released against Predator and Beverly Hills Cop 2, it earned a respectable but unspectacular $25 million. Over time, however, cable TV and home video transformed it into a beloved classic that influenced everything from Osmosis Jones to Rick and Morty. What makes Innerspace hold up isn't just its impressive visuals, but its humanity. Beneath the chase sequences and body humor lies a story about two men finding courage they didn't know they had. Few sci-fi films manage to be this technically innovative while remaining so emotionally accessible, proving sometimes the most extraordinary journeys happen within. 9. Deadly Friend, 1986. Wes Craven making a sci-fi film about a boy who resurrects his dead girlfriend using a robot brain? Deadly Friend is the bizarre genre hybrid that studio executives tried to bury, critics mocked, but horror fans rediscovered as a delirious masterpiece of 80s tech horror. Matthew Laborteaux stars as Paul, a teenage robotics genius who moves to a new neighborhood with his creation BB, a friendly AI robot. When his neighbor and crush Samantha is killed by her abusive father, Paul does what any lovesick teen would do: implants BB's microchip into her brain, bringing her back as a super-strong robotic avenger with glowing eyes and unfinished business. The film's troubled production is legendary. Originally conceived as a PG-13 sci-fi romance, Warner Brothers demanded more gore after test screenings disappointed. Craven reluctantly added bloody set pieces, including the infamous basketball decapitation scene where zombie robot Samantha launches a basketball at a neighbor's head with such force it explodes in a shower of gore. Critics savaged it, calling it a tonally confused mess that couldn't decide if it wanted to be E.T. or The Exorcist. It bombed at the box office, earning just $8.9 million. But its wild tonal shifts and genuinely unsettling central premise have earned it a growing cult following. The film walked so Ex Machina could run, exploring similar themes of artificial intelligence, autonomy, and exploitation of female bodies. Deadly Friend represents the beautiful chaos of 80s genre cinema, a time when a major studio would greenlight a sci-fi teen romance that transforms into a revenge horror about a robot zombie girl throwing basketballs so hard they explode people's heads. They truly don't make them like this anymore. 10. Lifeforce, 1985. Space vampires who drain victims' life energy instead of blood, an alien femme fatale who spends most of the film naked, and London overrun by zombies. Tobe Hooper's Lifeforce is the wildest sci-fi horror mashup of the decade that studio executives desperately tried to bury. Based on Colin Wilson's novel The Space Vampires, the film opens with astronauts discovering humanoid aliens in Halley's Comet. They bring 3 perfect specimens back to Earth, where the female alien awakens, escapes, and begins transforming London into a zombie apocalypse. Cannon Films gave Hooper an unprecedented $25 million budget, expecting another Poltergeist. What they got instead was a gloriously unhinged epic featuring exploding victims, energy vampirism, and a level of nudity that shocked even 80s audiences. The studio panicked, cutting 15 minutes from the American release and hiring an entire team to reshoot scenes and re-edit the film. Critics were merciless. Roger Ebert called it an incoherent mess, while others labeled it Alien meets Dracula with a dash of zombies. It bombed spectacularly, earning just $11.6 million and effectively ending Hooper's A-list directing career. But time has been kind to Lifeforce. Its restoration to Hooper's original vision revealed a film of startling ambition and visual imagination. The apocalyptic London sequences influenced later films like 28 Days Later, while its blend of cosmic horror and sexuality echoes through modern sci-fi horror. What makes Lifeforce special is its absolute commitment to its outlandish premise. In an era of focus-grouped filmmaking, its pure, unadulterated weirdness feels like a transmission from another dimension. Proof that sometimes the greatest sci-fi visions are the ones too strange for the mainstream. 11. Cherry 2000, 1987. In a future where sex robots are common but real relationships require legal contracts, a business executive risks everything to find a replacement part for his broken android wife. Cherry 2000 is the neon-soaked sci-fi romance that asks the question, can a man learn to love a real woman after losing the perfect machine? David Andrews stars as Sam, whose beloved Cherry 2000 sexbot short-circuits during a particularly enthusiastic encounter. When he discovers her model is discontinued, he hires Melanie Griffith's E. Johnson, a tough-as-nails tracker, to guide him into the lawless zone to find a replacement. Their journey across a post-apocalyptic wasteland becomes an unexpected love story as Sam discovers that real human connection is messier but more meaningful than programmed perfection. Director Steve DeJarnat crafted a visual feast on a modest budget. The film's production design is a riot of retrofuturism, contrasting sterile corporate cityscapes with the psychedelic anarchy of the wasteland. Basil Polidorus delivers a synth-heavy score that perfectly complements the film's melancholic heart. Orion Pictures had no idea how to market this strange genre hybrid, shelving it for nearly 2 years before dumping it direct-to-video in 1988. Critics mostly ignored it, but its themes of digital relationships versus messy human ones have only grown more relevant in our dating app era. Cherry 2000 predicted our complicated relationship with technology and intimacy decades before AI companions became a reality. Its vision of men choosing perfect digital partners over real women feels eerily prophetic in the age of digital relationships. What seemed like far-fetched sci-fi in 1987 now plays like an all-too-possible near future. 12. Leviathan, 1989. What happens when you mix the thing with the abyss and add a dash of alien? Leviathan is the undersea monster mashup that got crushed in 1989's underwater movie Tsunami, but has aged into a practical effects masterpiece that delivers genuine deep-sea terror. Peter Weller leads a crew of deep-sea miners who discover a Soviet shipwreck harboring a genetic mutation that transforms humans into aquatic monsters. As crew members begin to transform, paranoia and claustrophobia intensify 6 miles below the ocean surface with no escape in sight. The creature effects by Stan Winston are the star here. Grotesque, fluid human-fish hybrids that still disturb today. One scene where a character's mutating hand detaches and skitters away like a crab-provoked screams in test screenings. Director George P. Cosmatos creates palpable tension, using the mining facility's narrow corridors and the crushing ocean pressure to amplify the horror. Released within months of James Cameron's The Abyss and Sean S. Cunningham's Deep Star 6, Leviathan was dismissed by critics as derivative and sank at the box office, earning just $15.7 million against its $20 million budget. Roger Ebert summed up the critical consensus: Alien in the Deep Blue Sea. But modern horror fans have rediscovered it as a showcase of pre-CGI monster making at its finest. In an age of weightless digital creatures, Winston's tangible mutations have a visceral impact no computer can match. The film benefits from a stellar cast including Richard Crenna, Amanda Pays, and Daniel Stern, all bringing gravitas to what could have been stock characters. Leviathan represents the last gasp of big-budget practical effects horror before CGI transformed the industry. Its undersea nightmare holds up because those monsters weren't rendered on computers. They were built, puppeteered, and filmed, creating a tactile horror that feels dangerously real. 13. The Hidden, 1987. An alien parasite that jumps from body to body, turning ordinary citizens into adrenaline junkie criminals. A stoic FBI agent who's more than he seems. And one of the best car chases ever filmed. The Hidden is the sci-fi action thriller that critics admired, audiences missed, but filmmakers have been quietly stealing from for decades. Kyle MacLachlan stars as FBI agent Lloyd Gallagher, partnered with hard-nosed detective Thomas Beck to investigate a series of bizarre crimes committed by seemingly ordinary people. The truth? An alien entity is hopping between human hosts, committing increasingly violent crimes while seeking power and influence in human society. Director Jack Sholder crafts a perfect blend of body horror, buddy cop action, and alien invasion that moves at a relentless pace. The opening sequence, featuring a mild-mannered banker robbing his own bank, stealing a Ferrari, and leading police on a demolition derby chase, remains one of the most kinetic action scenes of the decade. Critics praised its clever premise and MacLachlan's oddly compelling performance. Roger Ebert called it a sleeper that deserves wider recognition. But released the same month as RoboCop, it earned a modest $9.7 million and quickly disappeared from theaters. The Hidden's influence, however, is everywhere. Without it, there's no Men in Black, no Fallen, no The Thing meets Buddy Cop hybrid that would define later sci-fi. Its exploration of identity and what makes us human resonates even more today, as does its theme of an alien entity seeking political power to control the planet, a storyline that feels uncomfortably relevant in our current climate. 14. Scanners, 1981, Exploding Heads, Corporate Conspiracy, and Psychic Warfare. David Cronenberg's Scanners is the telekinetic thriller that gave us cinema's most infamous head explosion while exploring the dark side of pharmaceutical testing and mind control long before it was trendy. Stephen Lack plays Cameron Vale, a homeless scanner with uncontrollable telepathic powers who's recruited by a shadowy corporation to track down D.A.R.Y.L. Michael Ironside, a rogue scanner building an underground army. What follows is a psychic espionage thriller where the most devastating weapons are human minds. The film's opening scene, where a scanner makes a man's head explode in front of a horrified conference audience, has become iconic. But Scanners is far more than its spectacular gore. Cronenberg crafts a chilling examination of medical experimentation, corporate power, and the weaponization of human biology that feels increasingly relevant in our pharmaceutical-dependent society. Shot on a modest $4 million budget in freezing Canadian locations, the production was notoriously difficult. The famous head explosion took multiple attempts, eventually achieved by shooting a plaster head filled with dog food and fake blood from behind with a shotgun. Ironside's intensely physical performance as Revok, including the veins-bulging psychic battles, caused him to burst blood vessels in his eyes. Critics were divided but intrigued, with some dismissing it as exploitative, while others recognized Cronenberg's deeper themes. It became his first commercial hit, grossing over $14 million and spawning several inferior sequels. Scanner's legacy extends far beyond horror. Its imagery of corporate medical experimentation and pharmaceutical control mechanisms predicted controversies that would emerge decades later. Modern viewers often note how its themes of weaponized medical technology feel more documentary than science fiction. 15. The Running Man, 1987. America's most popular TV show features criminals hunted to death by costumed killers. The audience votes on executions while corporations sponsor the bloodshed. The Running Man isn't just a sci-fi action flick. It's the movie that predicted our reality TV hellscape with eerie accuracy. Arnold Schwarzenegger plays Ben Richards, a wrongfully convicted man forced to compete on The Running Man, a game show where prisoners must evade professional killers for a chance at freedom. What begins as another Schwarzenegger vehicle transforms into a surprisingly sharp satire of media manipulation, entertainment as distraction, and the commercialization of violence. Director Paul Michael Glazer, yes, Starsky from Starsky and Hutch, creates a dystopian 2019 that feels disturbingly plausible. The film's vision of privatized prisons, manipulated news footage, and a population pacified by violent entertainment anticipated our current media landscape with uncomfortable precision. Though loosely adapted from Stephen King's darker novella, the film leans into satire with game show host Damon Killian delivering catchphrases between executions. The production design creates a believable world of economic extremes, gleaming TV studios for the elite, crumbling ghettos for everyone else. Critics dismissed it as mindless action, missing its satirical bite. It performed modestly at the box office, earning $38 million against its $27 million budget. But its influence has grown exponentially. Without The Running Man, there's no Hunger Games, no Black Mirror's 15 million merits, no cultural awareness of how reality TV manipulates both contestants and viewers. What makes The Running Man truly prescient isn't just its prediction of reality TV, but how it foresaw entertainment merging with politics, corporations controlling information, and audiences cheering real suffering as long as it's packaged as entertainment. It's not just a forgotten sci-fi film, it's a warning we should have heeded. From body-hopping aliens to telekinetic corporate wars and reality TV nightmares, these forgotten gems delivered visions of the future that proved frighteningly accurate. Which of these blown-your-mind classics are you watching tonight? Drop a comment below and let us know which forgotten 80s sci-fi film deserves a big-budget remake. Hit subscribe for more deep dives into the cinema time capsule. After all, sometimes the most visionary films are the ones that slipped through the cracks of mainstream memory.